This is Michael Popok, and look, it's Legal AF After Dark. We have a new set of disclosures coming out of the Mar A Lago case, including new evidence that demonstrates why a federal judge found it was more likely than not that Donald Trump committed a crime related to at least the attempt to suppress, delete, and destroy the video evidence of him and his henchmen moving boxes that belonged to the American people around Mar A Lago to avoid the federal government's subpoena leading to the search warrant. That and Donald Trump's claims that in executing the search warrant, they were going to try to execute him and assassinate him, which is batshit crazy, pardon my French, but also just completely wrong factually. And that has led the special counsel to file a motion for a gag order with Judge Cannon. What could go wrong? We'll follow it all on Legal AF. Take a listen.
Let me give us the framework now of what's going on, though, as we head south before Judge Eileen Cannon. Y'all may have heard the Trump and kind of MAGA propaganda that they're saying, oh, based on this use of force statement that was in certain documents that were unsealed, Trump's been posting over and over again that Biden ordered FBI agents to assassinate him. So false and such a dangerous statement to make. It puts also the lives of the FBI agents at risk if they're basically being called murderers. It puts Merrick Garland's life at risk. It puts President Biden's life at risk. I mean, a real horrific lie. And so what is Trump and what are these MAGAs even kind of talking about? Well, there's a standard use of deadly force protocol that exists in connection with every search warrant executed, whether it's at Mar A Lago or elsewhere, that just lays out the conditions where use of different types of force, including lethal force, can be utilized. And that's part of a packet that's often turned over as part of discovery in criminal cases, as part of discovery that usually remains confidential. Now, Donald Trump filed before Judge Eileen Cannon, his preferred judge du jour, a motion to dismiss based on violations of due process and making claims that based on the way the search warrant was executed, that he was unfairly targeted. It's completely frivolous. It's not even the right forum and venue to make these types of challenges. If you wanted to make challenges of an unlawful search and seizure, you would go in front of the magistrate. And by the way, these proceedings, these issues were already litigated before, where the 11th Circuit overturned Judge Eileen Cannon when Trump was trying to sue the Department of Justice in the United States, claiming that the court should exercise equitable jurisdiction back in 2022 during the first round of Judge Cannon cases. But what Trump does is he files these frivolous motions. He attaches to them confidential discovery he wants released in the public. And then he tries to get Judge Eileen Cannon to make the disclosures of these things in the public. And then Jack Smith has to try to stop her. Jack Smith's successful on some things where she thinks she's going to be reversed. Other times she discloses things publicly. And from the recent batch of disclosures that were made by Judge Cannon, we got these photographs of Walty Nauta from the Mar A Lago surveillance footage that shows him holding these boxes as he was moving classified documents. I mean, folks, what are in those boxes are nuclear codes and nuclear secrets, not codes, nuclear secrets, war plans, highly sensitive classified information at the highest levels. And this Walty Nauta, Trump's valet who gets him Diet Cokes, is moving the most highly sensitive documents 2 days before the FBI and DOJ show up in response to the subpoena that was issued in May. Then they were supposed to be voluntary cooperation by Trump, but instead of voluntary cooperation, that's Trump's guy, Walty Nauta, moving the boxes to hide them. So ultimately, when the Department of Justice got those photos and they saw what was going on, They knew they didn't want to execute a search warrant. They wanted voluntary cooperation, but Trump continued to obstruct over and over again. So a search warrant finally had to be executed at Mar A Lago. And with that search warrant comes a lot of the standard forms and standard kind of filings that exist. We also know from some of the documents that were released that there were numerous other documents, at least 6 other documents, classified documents that were discovered after the search warrant was executed at Mar A Lago, when the search warrant was executed in August of 2022. And then in like December, Trump's lawyers contacted the Department of Justice and said, hey, we have these other documents also we discovered like in his bedroom and in his closet. So that would be damaging information that's being made public. But Trump didn't care about that because those are just facts. Trump doesn't think corporate media is going to report on the facts. Trump cared about, he wanted this use of force policy out there, which is the standard use of force policy, so he could spread on Fox and the New York Post and elsewhere this horrific lie that he was targeted for assassination. Now, when the FBI executed the search warrant in August of 2022, they made sure that Trump wasn't even there. They coordinated with Secret Service to make sure it would be done in an orderly fashion. If you actually read the documents, Trump got more rights and benefits than anybody else in the execution of a search warrant. But Trump wanted to show the standard use of force policy document and say, look, they were trying to kill me. Look, Biden's a threat to democracy, not me. He's trying to kill me. And then rely on corporate media pushing that out or just not telling the truth, and propaganda media pushing that out. So that's what Donald Trump did. Now, the development from last night on Friday is, and Popok, I know you did a hot take on this as well, is that Special Counsel Jack Smith sought an expansion of the conditions of release, if you will, a gag order on Donald Trump to stop him from issuing false statements that are endangering the agents who executed the search by posting all of these false statements. Jack Smith's office is asking a federal judge to place a gag order on Trump that would limit his ability to comment about law enforcement that searched his Mar-a-Lago resort. And from Trump to make false statements saying that he's being targeted for assassination because it is placing the law enforcement officer's life at risk. I think 2 things are important here from Popok, and I want to get your take on what Special Counsel Jack Smith filed last night. I think 1, this is just an important document that needs to be filed. It's the first time I think we've really seen a more robust gag order before Judge Eileen Cannon even being requested. But I think that Judge Eileen Cannon, you and I will talk about this, I think that the likely outcome is for Judge Eileen Cannon to reject this, at which point Special Counsel Jack Smith can then, I think, go to the 11th Circuit and then bring in all of the other misconduct by Judge Cannon. And I think it actually accomplishes both goals for Jack Smith, that he needs this gag order, but I think he knows that Judge Cannon is not going to provide any gag orders on Donald Trump. I think she'll reject it, order a hearing, and then I think we go into the 11th Circuit finally. And I think this is a way that Trump may have overplayed his hand. All right, where we last left off, Special Counsel Jack Smith last night on Friday filed for this expanded conditions of release, which is essentially a gag order on Trump for making false statements about agents trying to kill him. I think that this is brilliant. 1, it's necessary, but 2, I think when Judge Cannon makes the wrong move here, or even if she doesn't move in a timely manner, and she's known for lots of delays, then Jack Smith has an opening right now to the 11th Circuit finally. What do you make of all of this, Michael Popok?
Yeah, Mar-a-Lago was sort of quiet for a long, long time, and we were like, what's going on down there? And then, she postponed the trial indefinitely. We're like, okay, not much reporting going on. We'd forgotten a little bit. There were still like motions to dismiss that were still out there. Walt Nauta was still pushing to have things dismissed. There were still hearings going on, and there was still Donald Trump being Donald Trump. The unsealing part was really interesting because we had always suspected that, and you and I reported on it, that when Evan Corcoran, the lawyer for Donald Trump at the time of the search warrant and the subpoena, when he got his, or Donald Trump's, attorney-client privilege stripped away from him because the Judge Beryl Howell, boy, there's a judge I miss, who presided as the chief judge over the original grand jury and the subpoena process, search warrant process, or at least the subpoena process related to Donald Trump and Mar A Lago. We were like, wow, because it was all confidential and secret and sealed. Wow, she stripped Evan Corcoran. Evan Corcoran has to turn over 50 pages of single-spaced notes about his mental impressions of his client. There's an audio tape that he recorded of his own thought process about his client and Mar A Lago. What, are you kidding me? What could the judge have heard in the evidentiary hearing that would have led her to do that? Well, now we know because it just got unsealed as part of this whole process that you described. And here's my favorite part from the unsealing. This is from Judge Beryl Howell that we did not know about, but we suspected, about what you described as the box movement and the fact that Donald Trump, that genius, that mental genius from the University of Pennsylvania, forgot he had cameras everywhere and video recordings. And this is what the judge concluded after hearing the evidence. The government urged that this scramble to Mar A Lago in the wake of the June 24th phone call reflects the former president's realization that the removal of the boxes from the storage room, you're watching it here, was captured on camera, and his attempts to ensure that any subsequent movement of the boxes back to the storage room could occur off camera. Howell wrote, Judge Howell, this theory draws support from the curious absence of any video footage showing the return of the remaining boxes to the storage room, which necessarily occurred at some point between June 3rd, 2022, when the room had approximately X amount of boxes, and the execution of the search warrant on August 8th, 2022, when the agents counted 73 boxes. In other words, they had to go back, but there's no video of it. So then the government had already alleged that that's when Nauta rearranged his travel schedule to come back in a panic to get together with Carlos. This is where the conspiracy happened. Carlos de Oliveira, in an attempt to delete the surveillance footage using Yuscil Taveras, who was an IT worker, but became lead witness for the prosecution and avoided being indicted as a result. And all of that. So that all came out just like in the last day or so. And we're like, oh, now we see why Evan Corcoran and the judge concluded that it was more likely than not that Donald Trump committed a crime related to this. Back to your other point about the assassination attempt. Okay. And I want to reiterate and reinforce a couple of things that you said. Let me first explain what August is like in Florida, having lived there for 20 years. Unless you have to be there, and I was practicing law down there, you try not to be in places like Palm Beach County in August because it's like in the sun. And so Donald Trump is notoriously never at Mar A Lago in August, and the feds knew that because he's got Secret Service protection, and he decamps for Bedminster in New Jersey come around February or March when it starts to heat up in Florida. He's never at Mar A Lago. They knew that. He knew that. And we already had reporting at the time that Evan Corcoran and Christina Bobb and Jennifer Little, who were representing Donald Trump at the time, that they made contact with the Department of Justice, and they asked to actually be at Mar A Lago since their client wasn't there on purpose. It wasn't by accident. He purposely wasn't there when they executed the search warrant. That was the Department of Justice didn't want him there. If they wanted to assassinate him, they would have went to Bedminster, but they didn't, because that's not a thing where the Department of Justice and the FBI assassinates people that they're executing search warrants on. In fact, in the history of the Republic, that's never happened. Ever, okay? And Waco doesn't count with David Koresh. So back to Trump. He's gone. They coordinate. Evan Corcoran and the lawyers want to be in the room. They are told no. This is when we first learned of the video. They say there's video cameras. Can we watch on video? And you and I heard at the time, we're like, there's video cameras? That's interesting. And the FBI was like, no, you're not watching on video either. And that's how this whole sort of ball of wax first started rolling. and against Donald Trump. And now back to your original, your last point, which is what to make of this filing. Now, if it were filed with Beryl Howell, who was presiding over the search warrant in the subpoena, this would be a no-brainer, or any other judge. They would expand the gag order to include don't accuse the FBI of assassination attempts against Donald Trump. With Cannon, I can already hear her. I can already hear her pontificating. This is interesting. This is fascinating. Let me have a hearing and hear more about it. Like she just held a hearing last week on Wednesday, or this past week, about whether the special counsel was properly appointed through an appointment process or whether he's invalid. That's already been decided over and over again by even this United States Supreme Court. But yet, I think it's fascinating. Let's have a hearing about it. So she's going to have this hearing about something that should be a no-brainer. It should probably be done on the papers without the need for a hearing. And then she's going to step in the bucket. Although, as we've said, she's hypersensitive to being reversed. And so maybe like she did with Ben, like she did with the issue about her revealing witnesses, grand jury witnesses, without redacting them, even though it took her 6 weeks to figure it out, maybe she'll think, I should just expand the gag order because I don't want anything. I don't want to give the prosecutor a ticket to the 11th Circuit. Now, apparently, during that hearing that I just talked about, that was in 2 parts, the reporting from the room, because it's up in Fort Pierce with very few people in attendance, is that the judge admonished one of the prosecutors who was getting very upset because the judge was mischaracterizing his arguments. And he was like, that's not what I said, Your Honor. And she said, I'm going to counsel you to calm down. I mean, the prosecutors are getting upset, understandably so, because of how the judge is acting and handling this case and mishandling this case. And it's just ironic to me that the one time that they show a little ire and, their hair stands up on the back of their neck a little bit, she's the first one to shoot him down. Yet watch the Trump lawyers in every proceeding, appellate, Supreme Court, trial court, be totally disrespectful to the criminal justice system. So I think I'm 50-50 here. Cannon could grow a brain in time and realize that this is a trap. Trap, and right there she is, and say, aha, no, they want to get the 11th Circuit. I'm not going to let them. I'm just going to have a stupid hearing, and I'm going to just expand it and tweak it just a little bit, and then he doesn't have it. Or, like you said, maybe she does step forward and step in it, and then he has to file it. He did, Jack Smith. He has to take an appeal if she screws it up, and the 11th Circuit will slap her back. The question is, does he add in all the other things that she has done for the last year and a half or almost 2 years to mishandle and misadminister this case to try to get her reassigned? And that is, your guess is as good as mine.
Here's how I think it plays out, and I'm getting very granular with this prediction. Judge Cannon's been known to try to delay things and schedule hearings far in advance. So I think she tries to delay it. I think Special Counsel Jack Smith then requests that this be dealt with in an expedited way, right? This is urgent. This is a request because the lives of FBI agents and DOJ officials are being threatened by Donald Trump's behavior. So I think that she doesn't address it. I think then Special Counsel Jack Smith can have an avenue right there based on her delay to potentially go to the 11th Circuit or to get a writ or to finally take some action. That's what I think is going to happen. It's not done, at least right now, under the pretext of an emergency application. But I think that when she canons it and takes a long time, I think that this is not something that can be pushed months in advance. And I suspect that's what she will end up doing, but we will see.
Welcome back. We do that show. It's a podcast called Legal AF. We curate the top 4 or 5 stories at the intersection of law and politics and bring it to you one place, MeidasTouch Network, and right here on Legal AF. We do it on YouTube and then over on audio podcast platforms of your choice. So if you know all about Legal AF, we thank you for being part of our show. Use that clip, send it off to people in your life, and ask them to join our show. Maybe they'll listen to it and think, hey, I like that show. I want to hear more about it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that was Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. And until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.